Margaret, this is so fun seeing everybody pop up.
Hello, you're not going to see me.
Yes, we are, Margaret.
Not even the littlest bit? Come on, Margaret. Come on, Margaret.
I had a really long
Turn
day
on your
and I
video.
did not look pretty.
Well, then when we see you in person, it'll be just amazing. We'll say, look what
Exactly.
she did.
That's it. She's not a black and white box. So how is Ginny Link stink?
Yeah, thank you for that reminder.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I shouldn't
Go
set
ahead.
you on edge before your presentation.
I know. Thank you. I appreciate the timing of that. No, I'm good.
Good.
Now her family's online, Margaret. It's good for you to bring these things up.
Super,
Camera.
super duper. Okay, I'll just keep my mouth shut.
The list is on camera. Thank you. And Tom. Yay. And I think I see Scott. Is that Scott Brewington live or is that or
Scott Brewington is here, yes. Or Libby Brewington is here.
Nice outside and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Winston's all up north in a sweatshirt because it's cold.
Libby, it's so good to see you.
I know, same here. So fun to see all these faces.
Yes. And Laura, even though I know you live down the street, here we have to get on Zoom to actually see each other.
Mhm.
So true.
Okay, I think maybe we're about 7:33. We'll go ahead and get started. We might have a few more. Oh, we got a few more people popping in. I'll give it another maybe minute or so here. But we'll go ahead and get started. We might have a few more pop in as we go along. But welcome this evening. My name is Christy Johnson Ridenauer. I'm one of the 35th reunion of you to the class of 1987's sponsored back to school event featuring our own Jenny Link McGlone. And before we get started, we'll go over a few Zoom housekeeping items. And first, we'd like you to just mute yourselves, but we're not gonna mute for you. So we're gonna ask for a lot of participation. So have your mute fingers available to take yourself off. This is gonna be very much a participatory conversation with Jenny. She's gonna ask us lots of questions and wants to get a lot of feedback from everyone. So be prepared to take yourself off mute. If you're comfortable, for those of you who haven't put a name up there, feel free to change your name on your Zoom screen, first, last name, if you've got that. If you're a Davidson alum, put your class year there. That would be great so everyone knows who you are and what you represent. If you don't know how to do that, you can hover your mouse over your name and click the More button, and that will enable you to make any changes to your name there. The chat feature is going to be available throughout the presentation, and you can go ahead and chat away if you have any questions. Jenny's not going to be looking at the chat feature. I'm going to be helping monitor that. But again, feel free to raise your hand using the raise hand feature and ask Jenny questions directly. But if you're reluctant to do that, again, you can use that chat feature in that as well. But there's going to be a formal Q&A period at the end for any questions that don't get asked and answered and all as well. In addition, that we have enabled the auto transcription for this call. So if you'd like to enable that on your end, you can hover over the live transcription button on your screen and subtitles should appear for you. So those captions are not always accurate. So we ask for your understanding if that doesn't quite come out a word you might not expect see that Jenny has said. So, and if you have any tech issues, Mary Beth Harding Hernandez is here. So feel free to chat her up if you're having any tech issues during the presentation. So give her a chat question. So we will go ahead and get started officially. I'd like to introduce our own Dr. Jenny Link McGlone. Jenny is MathKind's co-founder and current brand director and board secretary. In 2014, Jenny and her husband, Chad, who is joining us also this evening, co-founded MathKind to create a summer travel opportunities for U.S. teachers to support their peers in developing countries. But since then, MathKind has grown from a small group of committed educators into a global network of researchers and local leaders collaborating year-round to transform mathematics instructions through high-quality grassroots programs. Jenny earned her bachelor's degree in psychology from Davidson, a master's degree in psychology from Wake Forest, and a doctorate in counseling psychology from Ohio State University. And in addition, she was my freshman hallmate on Fourth Little. So on behalf of the class of 1987, please join me in welcoming our own Dr. Jenny McGlone.
Yay. Thank you for that kind applause. I have a presentation, so let me get my screen going. And do a little bit of that. Okay, now my internet kicked me off just a few minutes ago. If for some reason I freeze or fall off altogether, you all just talk amongst yourselves and I'll be back as soon as I can. I just want to thank you most of all to the reunion committee for inviting me to be here. We have so many accomplished and smart people in our class who've done a lot in the 35 years since we graduated. So it's a real honor.
I think we lost her already.
I think we lost her already.
I'll go down and see if I can help her. That's really
Oh,
hard.
good.
Yes, because I can't even answer a question because you probably don't have any yet. But hold just 1 second.
That's good. The way we have in-house support.
That's right.
All right.
Oh, now she's back.
Try that again. Oh, internet. Okay, can anybody see? Do I need to reshare my screen?
You do. You do.
Okay. Let me get this going again. Of course, this would be the moment that everything decides not to work. Okay. We back? We good?
We see your screen, but we're not seeing the presentation yet.
You're not seeing the presentation yet.
Mm-mm.
Okay, I will stop sharing and try to share again.
Let's check and see.
All right, let's see if this will work.
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Nobody breathe. Let's see how long this lasts. Okay. Thank you all for showing up. Hopefully my internet will cooperate. Math is a subject that for a lot of people brings up unpleasant and some sort of scary emotions. So I really appreciate you being here, even though we've got math in the title. And just one last comment before I get started. If you're comfortable turning on your cameras, that would be awesome. I know Zoom fatigue is a thing, so totally fine not to, but my hope is to make this really informal and interactive. And when we can see each other, that's a little bit more a little bit easier. Okay. So what I'm excited to talk with you about this evening is just a little bit about what MathKind does and 4 lessons that I have learned about how to have a positive impact in the world. I'm going to share these lessons through the lens of math education because nonprofits and mathematics both seek to solve problems. So there's a lot of overlap. If you showed up hoping to hear me talk about something else, I would love to address those questions too. I'll pause throughout and we'll also have plenty of Q&A time at the end. All right, so let's get started. First of all, I would like you to think of
I'm gonna go downstairs.
All right. Conked out again. Can you all still see my screen? I'm so sorry. I have no idea what's happening. All right. So if you can hear me, it looks to me like all of y'all are frozen. So,
We can hear you and see you.
okay.
No
Yeah.
screen. No screen sharing.
Okay, no screen sharing. My tech.
Yeah, I'm gonna come down.
Oh, that's
Sorry,
right.
everyone. Yeah, I'm just checking what's what now.
Yeah, I'm on the.
Yes, I know. You should be able to share. This.
No, it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah. Boy.
I don't know what's
I
going
know.
on.
If I could hold it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We good? Can you see?
You're back to
See
just
my
a black
screen?
screen. Yeah, you just have a black screen that says you've started screen sharing, but nothing is showing up.
This is really just a test, isn't it? So that we'd all go in person to our reunion.
Oh. I think we lost Jenny completely.
Yeah.
What did I miss in the beginning, you guys?
Hey, Melinda.
Hi, Linda.
Hey, everybody. What did I miss?
Christy gave a really nice introduction about Jenny, Dr. McGlone.
Oh, did anybody roast Jenny?
Well, Margaret used a nickname for her, so you can jump in. You know, you have lots of stories you could tell of Jenny. I don't know if you want to do that in front of her children or not.
I was
but,
going to say, remember her kids are here.
I was going to wait till Jenny was here.
I would love to hear my mom roasted actually. So go ahead. I have some wine over here. I'm ready for it.
okay.
Oh, funny.
Hi, you guys.
Everybody's coming on. That's great.
Yeah, we're gonna be the entertainment while she's figuring out her internet.
Did you email Mike Ladd to come tonight?
Oh, we should have.
I think the timing, since it's what, 3 o'clock in the
It's
morning or whatever for Mike.
2 a.m. for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's Jenny.
Well, he helped her with the
If he really
presentation.
cared about her, he'd be here.
Yeah.
I'm going to text him right now. Jenny,
She's
I'm gonna text Mike Ladd.
Hey, Jenny.
Thank you. He'll be asleep, but that's, yeah.
But it's
Do you want to try to do it maybe from your phone and we can do your slides if you want to come in from your phone?
I'll download it. I'll back up on my computer.
I know. I'm so sorry. Of course, this would happen at this moment when it's been fine all day. Let me give it one more try. And if I get booted off again, then I'll use, because it's working fine for my husband in another part of the house. So I'll just decamp and I'm so sorry. Okay, so let's give it one more try. All right. What are you all seeing a slide
Yep,
or
you're good. You're good, Jenny.
good? All right. Oh my gosh. Say a prayer. Okay. I'm going to try not to talk really fast while I have you connected. Okay. Think of something near you that reminds you of math. That's your first task. We're going to think just anything in the room that you're in, or you can hold it, you can grab it, or you can just hold it in your mind, something around you that reminds you of mathematics. And it can be any object. And I'm going to give you 30 seconds to come up with something near you that reminds you of math. All right, I lied. That was 25 seconds, but I think you all were fast. Okay, now set that aside in your mind, and we're going to explore a different question. What I would like you to do is take a look at these 4 objects and ask yourself which one doesn't belong and why. For example, I might say that the donut doesn't belong because it has icing and none of the others do. So we're going to split into breakout rooms for 4 minutes, and you're going to be part of a group whose task is to come up with as many reasons as you can for why any one of these objects doesn't belong with the others. So why doesn't the mug belong, or why doesn't the hamburger bun belong? So I'm going to put a link in the chat so you can pull up this slide and have it with you as you go into your breakout rooms. So hopefully that will work better than the rest of the internet does for me tonight. And then someone in each room keep count, because I'm going to ask each group to report back in the chat how many reasons you came up with for how any one of these objects is different from the other. Okay, so Grace, as soon as you've got them ready, we can go ahead and open up the rooms.
Uh-oh. Yeah. Lots of tech issues.
Jenny, did we lose you here?
Can you hear me this time?
I can hear you, yeah, but your screen share, you're out of slide presentation, I guess. We're in presenter mode, or
I'm in. Okay, let me stop sharing and do this one again.
there you go.
Okay. Yeah, so how about any questions or any comments? This would be a great point, a great moment for us to just kind of stop and take stock. And if you all have any questions you want to ask, or anything that came up in your rooms that you thought was particularly interesting that you want to share with everyone else, you're welcome to come off mute and just share that. Or if you want to raise your hands, I'm going to sit here for a moment. As an educator, I'm used to awkward silences, so I'll sit here and wait.
Melinda, I'll volunteer you. You had some good comments.
Oh, wait, Christy, help me. Like, what was appropriate for the whole group to hear?
No, I just think about the fact that math was everywhere, and talking about all the different perspectives.
Jenny, I'll just share like the last thing I was saying. I just am in the middle of planting a pollinator garden in the hill strip outside of the house, and it's all math. And
Yeah.
I wasn't, as you know, I was not a math person, Jen. But it's become this very, Excel spreadsheet kind of thing all about geometry and the spaces and the shapes and the growth rate of plants and the size. And it's one big math problem, and I could use some help. So thank you for tonight, because I'm starting to look at math as more fun already. You've accomplished your goal with me, at least.
Okay. That's awesome, because apparently the internet wants me to end at this point. So it's good to know that, yes, mission accomplished. No, that's awesome. And you are so right that gardening, planting, yes, there's so much math in that we can approach with sort of like the eye roll, or in the, math is this tool that's enabling you to create something amazing. I love that. Anybody else want to share?
One thing that crossed my mind, and this is not something that we talked about, but I'm not sure who's with Charlotte. I didn't catch his name, but he picked his cell phone. And so, he was talking about just the accessibility, but I know you work in Guatemala, and how much accessibility do you really have to things like the internet and cell phones and things like that?
Yes. Oh my gosh, that is such a good question. And that was something I was going to bring up a little bit later, but yeah, I'll address it now. It's really tough. Yes, it is really tough, especially with the pandemic and being unable to travel to visit in person the countries that we partner with. Surprisingly enough, cell phone access is in general easier than internet. The development almost skipped over when the internet and Wi-Fi was spreading, and now cell phone towers are more common. But it is really hard. We have partnered in some areas where, because of the pandemic, schools just completely shut down because they have no way of reaching students virtually. The government of Guatemala was sending radio announcements out. Who listens to the radio anymore? Or photocopying worksheets, physical worksheets that teachers would walk around and distribute to homes, just so there was something happening.
Well, it's interesting that the teachers were allowed to walk around and go to their homes. Where we were, that didn't happen. I work with the migrant population in our area. We're a big farming area in Florida. So I'm a volunteer, but the migrant education program employees that were part of the school district were not allowed to go to people's homes. They were allowed to take hotspots to the communities so that they could transmit their schoolwork. So they were provided with computers, but a lot of them still don't have hardwire internet service in their communities. So they do transmit things versus on cell towers or with hotspots. So that's what the employees ended up doing during that time.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So they did manage to find some way to connect, but yeah.
But there's obviously not enough vehicles or people to drive hotspots around to all the students in the county to make sure that, they have access. And when you have multiple people in one house trying to share one computer, that was an issue too.
Yeah, and a lot of the students that we've worked with, it's one family sharing one cell phone and having to pay for all the data, and that's just not a possibility. So
is unlimited data a thing down there?
You know what? I'm going to punt that to my husband, Chad, or Charlotte, actually, or Helen. I'm going to punt that to somebody else in my family who spent more time in country than I have. Whoever wants to take that, come off mute. Yeah.
Yes, I'd love to. Hate to talk right over my daughters, but it's because it changes monthly or even yearly. In some places there is the unlimited plan, but not always. I'm literally just did a workshop in Zimbabwe, and if they cannot connect through their Wi-Fi, they can't afford to communicate with me, really, because it can be really substantial for them. And even I mean, Charlotte, you remember being in the mountains of Guatemala, and literally we used the entire budget for the school's monthly data plan in one day. We had to revamp everything that we were doing because our teachers in the US were used to just downloading. So I remember doing some serious scrambling.
Yeah.
It definitely changes your model for distribution and teaching.
Yeah, we've had to try to get really creative. And I think we're only just beginning to appreciate, I think in this country too, it's learning loss is a term that's fallen out of favor and not really accurate, but the catch up that's going to need to happen, the learning delays. Yeah, I think teachers are doing an amazing job in this country of trying to keep up with that. But in some of our partner countries, yeah, we're only just now getting a sense of what has been lost. If it's okay with you all, I'm going to move on with all these tech issues.
There was one question about, are you using Safe Passage? I'm not sure what that is, but I don't know if you guys know what that is.
I don't know what Safe Passage is.
Mary Beth, you were the one that had asked that question.
Yes, so Safe Passage is a nonprofit in Guatemala that has schools for the children who are growing up around the dump, for lack of a better term. And it's a really wonderful organization that is like, provides all these wraparound services.
That sounds amazing.
Mm-hmm. They've been invited to our conference that we have a few times in November. But we're hiring people in Guatemala who should pursue a partnership with them.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that.
How do you handle the language barrier, given that a lot of the mountainous regions speak Quechua or Mam, or those dialects that really, I understand the Guatemalan government is now encouraging and teaching children Quechua again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for a lot of the teachers we work with, Spanish is their second language. Yeah, there are 21 different Maya languages in Guatemala. So we have interpreters who speak Spanish, and so usually, and Chad, again, chime in if I'm saying anything wrong. So far, our partners have been able to communicate with us in Spanish, which is kind of, surprisingly another blessing of doing math, because there's a common understanding of numbers, but some of the communities we've worked with, their number system is different than the Maya number system is. Yeah, you're nodding your head, Barbara, so you know what I'm saying.
Yep.
And it's fascinating to see how if we present a really challenging problem to the teachers, they will go back to working with their Maya. Is it a base 5, I think, system?
5 and 20. It's a 20 base 20 with a sub 5.
Yeah, which blows my mind. Like it's so sophisticated and fascinating to see that happen, but that's so much that comes really naturally to them. So yeah, that's not really what you asked about, but
no, but that is fascinating in and of itself, because the way they approach problems will definitely be different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whether you're looking at it as a base 10 or a base 20. And I was going to say, for a large part of the world, the symbols in math are very similar. There might be little things like, in Europe, they use a comma where we use a decimal.
Yeah.
And we call them periods, which makes more sense because they use periods to separate them, whereas we use commas. But there's little things like that you can figure out. But then there's the big things like numbers that are Cyrillic when you write them, or, like you said, a base 20 system. Those are just above and beyond,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm going to talk about some of this. Let me keep going, because you're giving away all my good stuff.
Oh,
so, which is totally fine. But I say it better in a few more slides. So hang on just a second. Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
All right. So math kind. So what we're trying to do as an organization is to dispel the myth that the world is divided into two kinds of people, that there are math people who have some natural ability to be good at math, and then the rest of us who struggle with it. So the 4 lessons that I have learned during the 7.5 years that Chad and I have been pursuing this mission. I'm going to kind of walk you through these first in the context of mathematics education, and then show you some real life examples of how I found it to be true. All right, number 1, start with a problem to solve. As I mentioned, math seeks solutions to problems. There are simple ones and there are more complex ones. A simple problem is, if I have to be at work at 8 o'clock in the morning and my commute is 30 minutes, when do I need to leave my house? You can probably do that calculation yourself, but I gave you a hint there on the slide in case you need it. More complex problems, what Melinda's talking about with her garden, that's a complex math problem. Here on the slide on the right is a picture of John Glenn in a Mercury training capsule in 1961. There were a lot of really complicated math problems involved in sending humans safely into space. And one particular problem, if you saw the movie Hidden Figures, where should an orbiting astronaut fire his spacecraft's reentry rockets to land on a particular portion of the Earth? How do we get this guy safely back? That's a math problem. So the problem Mathkind is trying to solve is, how can we support math teachers around the world to learn and apply research-based best instructional practices? This is a picture of Domingo, who teaches in a remote area of Guatemala. Low-income countries like his just don't have the resources to train teachers. At his school, many of the teachers have only a high school degree, and they're expected to teach the way they were taught, using traditional Western methods that are all about lectures, that are all about the teacher holding all the knowledge, rather than what they know intuitively is a more effective way to teach, how they and how all of us teach our children at home. When you want to show your child, for example, how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you don't start by pulling out a textbook. You teach by assembling a sandwich together. So even though we focus on developing countries, we're often asked about math teachers in the US. And so just to say, in this country, evidence-based teaching strategies are taught to pre-service teachers. We know in this country how to teach math, but teachers' knowledge gets buried under the politics and the education system's inability to professionalize teaching as a career. And that will be the talk for our 40th reunion. So let me introduce you to Celestina. She's an indigenous Maya math teacher in a village on the shore of Lake Atitlan, Guatemala. When she was a student, she loved math. However, she would get hit on the hand every time she got a problem wrong. So she quickly began to fear math. Now, teachers who use methods like this are not malicious, they're not sadistic, they believe they're helping their students learn. They're expressing the legacy of colonialism. Education in Celestina's country in Guatemala for 350 years was a means of subjugation. Its goal was to force the indigenous population to accept Spanish culture and Roman Catholicism. So when Celestina was hired to teach math at a NGO-funded Girls Leadership Academy, she did not have the training to prepare her to use any strategies other than traditional teacher-focused lecture-based ones. She knew not to swat her students, but she hadn't been exposed to this more expansive definition of math that focuses on problem solving and critical thinking. So returning to lesson number 1, starting with the problem to solve. The problem Mathkind seeks to solve is how to come alongside teachers like Celestina and share the pedagogy that we know works. And you're going to hear more about her in a bit. Okay, lesson number 2. Here's a quote from Peter Liljedahl, who's the author of Building Thinking Classrooms. Problem solving is messy, nonlinear, and idiosyncratic. When people work on finding the solution to a challenging problem, they are likely to get stuck, and we need other people to help unstick us. Hearing a different perspective allows us to apply our knowledge in a new way in order to keep working towards a solution. And in that process, we learn about the problem, we learn about ourselves, about how to think, about how to listen and communicate. So let's look at some examples of how working in groups can be useful. So in 2016, MathKind was invited to partner with a nonprofit running a school in a surfing village on the Pacific coast of Guatemala. And this is what we saw when we got there. You'll notice that there's a clearly marked front of each classroom where teachers are working with a small number of students, 1, 2, or 3. You'll also notice students in the back not paying attention. This student over here on the left is much more interested in the photographer. These students over here on the right are much more interested in what they're going to have for lunch or what they're going to do when class is out. And then you've got all these desks kind of randomly strewn around with backpacks and no students. So somebody showed up and dropped off their stuff and then disappeared, either because they weren't engaged or they or their families didn't see the value of what they were learning. So we came and we led workshops introducing student-centered collaborative instruction, like what you all did in your breakout rooms. That's what research shows is the most effective way to teach. So when we came back the next year in 2017, this is what we saw. Students working together in groups, figuring out the solutions to math tasks together. And yes, those are pipe cleaners and those are math tools. You see the smiles, you see the energy, the engagement, the physical space has even changed. Where is the front of the classroom? Where even is the classroom? These girls on the right are outside in the hallway. They're getting ready to tape angles onto the walls. Where are the teachers? Now, this is the moment where I should point out that we are not promoting fuzzy math or saying that math has to be watered down and fun all the time. We definitely advocate teaching the curriculum. Our workshops focus on traditional concepts like we all learned at Davidson, linear equations and exponents and calculus. But what we do is we teach them in a way that guides students to make discoveries, because what the research shows is that students build deeper understanding when they create knowledge rather than teachers handing it to them. So the saying goes, be the guide on the side rather than the sage on the stage. Okay, here's another benefit of working in groups. In 2020, when the pandemic hit, our staff in Ecuador organized a 3-day series of online workshops to support teachers. We called this program the Marathon de Mate, or Math Marathon. For the first year, we partnered with one university in Quito, and we had 110 registrations, which we were super excited about because this was the program's first year. For the second year in 2021, we brought in 5 additional education institutions to partner with us. You can see their logos there on the left. And the Math Marathon went viral. We had 1,307 registrations, which meant that we were able to reach over 70,000 students with that 3-day series of workshops. That was the power of joining our collective efforts together, working in groups. Okay, I'm going to skip over this and stop at the end instead and go on to lesson number 3. In math education, there's a fancy term called Socio-Mathematical Norms. And these norms are similar to social norms in that they are constructed by the individuals in a given setting and they guide behavior. So each classroom has its own microculture that establishes norms about how acceptable mistakes are or aren't. So research tells us that students develop deeper understanding when their classroom is a safe space where they don't have to be afraid of making mistakes, where there's no pressure to get the right answer quickly. We know from neuroscience that brains actually spark and they build more connections when we get the wrong answers in settings where the norms embrace failure. So if you look at the classroom on the left, this is in Ecuador, in Quito, probably there's a socio-mathematical norm that values getting the correct answer right on the first try. These kids are working so hard. On the right is our Girls STEM Club. This is in Guayaquil, Ecuador. There we established a different norm, that learning is filled with twists and turns. So making mistakes, even struggling, is productive. And if you look at the difference in these students' facial expressions on the left and on the right, If you had to predict which one of them is going to grow up to think of themselves as a math person, you would probably guess the girls on the right, and you would be correct. Okay, so how many mistakes did Chad and I make in the early years of Math Kind? Well, this is how our journey started. In 2013, our older daughter, Charlotte, and sorry that I didn't warn you that your picture was on here. She's in the pink. She wanted to be able to add a mission trip experience to her college applications. And coincidentally, Chad, who's here in the back in the green, had just received an invitation from a university professor to travel to this school on the left in Santa Evelina, Guatemala. And it was a whole group of math education faculty who came. This school is in a village that is up in the remote mountains of Quiche in Guatemala, and it was tragically caught in the middle of the violent 3 decades long civil war that ended in the 1990s. The shrubs on the left over here are actually growing over a mass grave of dozens of residents who were killed. Government soldiers and rebel militias would take turns periodically raiding the town, looking for collaborators. They would round up all the men who hadn't had time to run up into the surrounding hills to hide, and they would just kill them. So the people in this school just captured Chad and Charlotte's hearts, and Chad was asked to lead the project the following summer. He said yes, and he and I just kept taking the next fearless step, not being afraid of making mistakes, because we knew that at the very least we could go and listen to the teachers, express their needs, and somehow just in that listening posture, there would be some good. Now, what we began to figure out is that the classroom changes that occurred during our team's visits faded over time. And we realized we needed to provide more than 1 week a year of coaching. So we started to form an in-country staff. This gentleman here on the purple was our very first hire in Guatemala. He still works with us. So what we learned from our mistake allowed us to make a shift. And that's when we started to see real transformation in the classroom. So we're living this quote out every day. Try again, fail better. All right, last lesson. Recognize that there are many alternative paths to the same goal. So for math teachers, knowing whether a student got the right answer, that's a data point, but it's not particularly useful or interesting. It tells a teacher really nothing about the student's thinking, reasoning, creativity, understanding. These pictures are from an NGO-funded school in an impoverished, crime-ridden neighborhood in Guayaquil, Ecuador. They were sent by Estella, who is one of our partner teachers. She was so proud to show us how she implemented this evidence-based, student-centered instruction. She's got an open-ended math problem here with these 4 students, like the one you did earlier tonight that has a lot of different solutions. For her, she is asked, if you have 46 books to arrange on shelves that can only hold 10 apiece, how would you divide them up and why? So her students shared their different answers with their classmates, and then Estella selected 4 of them to present their solutions to the rest of the class and argue why they believed their strategy was the most valid. So she empowered her students to propose solutions and then test them out. And this enables her students to see themselves as problem solvers. And that's an identity that extends beyond the classroom. So for Math Kind, when the pandemic exploded, we had to find an alternative path to achieve our goal of supporting math teachers. This picture is from early March of 2020. That's the last time we were able to send US-based math education experts to lead professional development workshops in person. This gentleman in the red here is actually one of the authors of the Common Core, just incidentally. Like the rest of the world, we shifted online. Fortunately, we'd been using Zoom for a couple of years, so we were familiar with it. Teachers here are in a workshop learning how to create a math game using supplies they'd have at home. Now, none of them were teaching in person at this point, and only a few were holding online classes, but they wanted to develop their skills in the hope that they could strengthen their teaching. Okay. We are getting really close to the end of time. So what I'm going to do is go quickly through the rest of these slides and then go to the Q&A. So the pivot for us allowed us to reach a lot more teachers, but as we've talked about, there's a huge digital divide that exists that we're struggling to overcome. And then let's get back to Celestina. So she has joined us in this problem, which is called the Learning Lab. She's there on the left in the mask. She has joined this community. There are 3 university professors, a school director, a STEM education leader for girls. And she is part of now a professional network that shares ideas and research findings about how to develop the inner mathematician we know lives in every student. Here she is leading a workshop explaining why when you multiply a fraction times a whole number, you get the answer that you get. She's explaining the reasoning behind the rule, not just handing down a rule. And this is the recap. Sorry for flying through those last few slides. Start with a problem to solve, work in groups, don't be afraid of mistakes, and recognize alternative paths to a goal. Thank you so much for joining me. I would love to hear from you all if this has inspired you. If maybe you have a little bit more love in your hearts for math, there's my email, and you can find us at mathkind.org. And I will stop talking now and see if there are any questions.
And share, and then we'll be able to see everyone. That'd be easier to communicate, maybe.
Yes, good idea.
There. See.
There we go.
Good.
So I know that we're doing good things in foreign countries, but the first thing I thought of when I saw your presentation or the talk that you were doing is, gosh, don't we need to be doing this in the United States?
Yes, we hear that a lot. Yes, and the United States has such an entrenched system of professional development for teachers. It is really hard. We have worked in teachers in the U.S., worked in schools with teachers in the U.S. and seen some real transformation, but there's just a lot of layers to get to, and teachers are so overloaded right now.
Yes.
Yeah,
Agree.
but yes, that's a really good point.
Can I add something to that really quickly, Jenny? Just,
of course.
And there, we do have a resource for teachers in the US. It's called Global Math Stories. Super fun stories to read. If you have a chance to see our website, take a look at them.
Okay.
But also, we still do the teacher trips and when it's safe to travel again. And so for the group of people, we want to take, for instance, a group of 10 teachers from Wisconsin to visit Guatemala in 2023. Those teachers will be led by like some of the legends in mathematics education in our country. So we'll have a leader doing professional development with the US educators while they're working with Guatemalan teachers. So that's a way of making an impact as well that we see as really sustainable and also meaningful to the US educators. So that's something we're working on pretty firmly.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry, if somebody else has questions, I mean, I'm sorry, I just got a bunch. My mind's just going crazy. I know that reading, dear, read 30 minutes a day, blah, blah, blah. And my goal with my kids was make them read math storybooks, which are very effective and in my mind. But I even just went on the Rotary International website because I wanted to see what their education initiatives were. And I don't know if you do any or get any funds from the Rotary International grants and foundations, but you know, how much can we, or have you been able to infiltrate groups like that to encourage not only just reading books, but math reading books?
Do you want to take that, Chad?
Yes, I love taking these kinds of questions.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we have worked with Rotary and are working for grants. There's a real political process with Rotary. And we also have to work with Rotarians to help them understand we don't want to share our white male ideas with them just because it was successful in the US, because have power doesn't mean it's going to work in Guatemala. what we want to do is share our knowledge with them, help the Guatemalans, Ecuadorians, Zimbabweans take that knowledge and apply it to their space in their culture. So that's something we really are working to shift Rotary's thinking. And with regard to the math, we want people to do math every day and to be curious about the math you're doing. You know, I did a workshop in New York City with actors on Broadway, and they all showed up exactly on the right moment and said, oh my gosh, I'm so awful at math. I have no idea why I'm here. I was like, well, how did you get here? And they're like, well, I knew it was this time of day and the subway's going to be this way. And I have to take these 3 subs. Then I'm going to have to walk this way. And then I'm going to have to wait in line here. That's amazing math. And so I would even encourage you with your kids, read a regular story and ask the math in the story. If you see an elephant behind a tree, how big do you think the elephant is? Is it a grown-up elephant or a baby elephant? And, you know, how many steps would the ladder need to get you into the tree? Just ask the questions that you, the mathematician, think about when you approach each day.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think Barbara's pausing to give someone else a chance, but you're welcome to go ahead if you have another one.
I have a quick one, Jen.
Yeah.
When I was last in Ecuador, I went to a tiny little rainforest village outside of Tema and met with a school and the school administrator there. Just visited and English, bought some presents and talked to them. Can I put them in touch with you?
Please, yes, we would love that. Yep.
Thank you so much. I have to run, but I feel so grateful that you're doing this and that you shared it with us tonight, and I think the world of you guys.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Nice
It's so
to see
good
you.
to see you. Bye.
So I'm curious, does the Guatemalan government guarantee a certain number of years of education?
For students, like
Well, for their citizens of their country, like in the United States, we have compulsory education up until what, age 16 really, but grade 12.
Yeah, I'm gonna again.
Yeah, that's right. Because I'm the one I'm the one who's spent the time thinking about this. But it's compulsory through 6th grade in
That's what I was
theory.
wondering. Okay.
But it's easier for a parent to go, hey, I can have Danny help me in the coffee field for half the day. Then after 6th grade, parents have to decide, do I pay for middle school and send my child 2 villages over, 2-hour walk, or do I have my child stay home and help in the fields? And so that's a really critical component. Why do we need to do what we do? Because we need the kids to be able to say to their parents, if I'm in school, I'm going to learn to do what we do at home better because of what I'm learning there. So we want to give them value.
Well, and incidentally, the Guatemalans that we have who come and bring their children with them to work in the fields here, they have the opportunity to be educated up until age 22. And a lot of the parents will say, no, thank you. They're fine working in the fields. This is what they're going to do for the rest of their lives, but they do have the opportunity to go to night school and have in-home tutoring. So we do try to encourage that on that level.
That sounds great. Yeah. Yeah. And there's, the Guatemalan government, there's what they say. And then if you talk to teachers, they honestly don't feel like the Guatemalan government is very much in touch with what is actually happening for families and kids. So, compulsory education until 6th grade, but if they're given 3rd graders machetes to work in, to raise the crops to feed their families, like that's kind of a no-brainer, which is again, why we feel it's so important to connect math to the real world so that their families can see the value.
Well, and it's almost connecting it to Maslow's hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Because education is pretty high up on that, but safety and security is first. But if they have an education, then they can provide more of the first level. I mean, it's a strange combination.
Yeah, they affect each other for sure.
I hate to cut off all this great conversation and really appreciate all the dialogue and conversation everyone's got going on. Jenny and Chad and your family, you guys have all popped in and talked, and tech support as well. Appreciate that. Chad jumping in there as well. And everyone coming on board tonight. If you guys have more questions, mathkind.org is the website. And for those of you who are on Davidson Connect, Jenny is on Davidson Connect. You can reach out to her there as well for more information and be able to connect with her and email and get more involved and find out more questions and answers about MathKind and the work they're doing great out there in the world. So anyway, so Jenny, on behalf of the reunion committee and everyone tonight, we want to thank you for spending time with us, and for everyone who took out their time this evening. Appreciate you spending time with us as well. The event was recorded, so in a week or so, it will be able to be up on the Davidson website. So they'll be able to, for those, if any of your friends ask about it, want to see it, they'll be able to go out and have access to the recording for tonight. And those of you who can and haven't yet registered, we do have reunion weekend coming up. So go out to the Davidson website and sign up for the reunion. So I hope to see you guys in June for those of you who are reunion eligible. So appreciate that. Grace, Mary Beth, anything from you guys, or Jenny?
Just reiterate the thanks. It was really good to see everybody, and I appreciate your interest.
Thank you all very much for joining us this evening. Bye.
You guys.